CNN host Jake Tapper delivered a stunning and necessary commentary on Trump's recent Hitler-echoing rhetoric. I came across a segment that Jake Tapper did on CNN about Trump's now consistent echoing of Mein Kampf in his rhetoric about migrants. The phrase that really exemplifies this is Trump saying that migrants are poisoning the blood of America. It's disgusting, and you'll see Tapper make the specific comparison to Hitler's rhetoric in the clip I'm about to play for you. But it's important that we don't just move past this. Okay, well, this is a normal part of politics now. He's saying this all the time. Just like what we talk about with the ways in which Trump threatens democracy, and we can't normalize those facts. Same thing applies here. It has to be constantly and consistently called out. Alarms have to be going off until after Election Day in 2024. Otherwise, we're going to end up with an authoritarian president, and I'd rather not see how that would turn out. With that being said, here is Jake Tapper.
He uses the term poisoning the blood of our country, poisoning the blood of our country. If you were to open up a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf, you would find the Nazi leader describing the mixing of non-Germans with Germans as poisoning. The Jew, Hitler wrote, quote, poisons the blood of others. This, according to Hitler, posed an existential threat to Germany because, quote, all great cultures of the past perished only because the originally creative race died out from blood poisoning, unquote. There's really no other way to say it. Donald Trump's language mirrors this directly. Republican reactions to Trump's latest words on immigration have, not surprisingly, been mostly muted, aside from former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who told me that those words were, quote, disgusting. Sitting Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who used to be quite active in trying to push immigration reform, he doesn't seem overly concerned.
We're talking about language. I could care less what language people use as long as we get it right. I believe in legal immigration. I have no animosity toward people trying to come to our country. I have animosity against terrorists and against drug dealers.
Graham is dismissing words from Donald Trump as inconsequential. And, you know, maybe they are to you, maybe they are to me, but we have seen Mr. Trump's words become calls to action. On January 6, 2021, of course. But don't forget the climate of the 2018 midterm elections. The Donald Trump Fox warnings about this caravan of migrants, terrifying migrants, funded by George Soros, they said. It was rhetoric, mere words, but it dovetailed nicely with the very racist Great Replacement theory that Jews are funding migrants to come to the United States to replace the white people of the United States. It's a sick, twisted conspiracy theory. But they're just words, right? A conspiracy theory, just words. But they become, to some sick minds, calls to action. And right in the middle of that campaign, October 27th, 2018, the Tree of Life Synagogue massacre. 11 Jews killed. The deadliest attack on Jewish Americans in the United States history. But even that shooting did not stop Trump from continuing to fuel these deranged rumors. Just days later, he suggested that wealthy financier George Soros, who is Jewish, may have been actually paying for the migrant caravan. No record of this, no proof of this, but he said it anyway.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. No, I wouldn't. I don't know who, but I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people say yes.
A lot of people say yes. Rhetoric inspired bloodshed. Meanwhile, continued. So that was 2018. Flash forward, August 3rd, 2019, the El Paso Walmart shooting. 23 people killed. And this sick white replacement theory continues. May 14th, 2022, the supermarket shooting in Buffalo, New York, 10 killed. All of those murders were inspired by these mere words. As my friend and colleague Van Jones points out, presidents have a way of calling the American people to act. John F. Kennedy called us to serve. Ask not what your country can do for you. Called us to serve. He formed the Peace Corps. Ronald Reagan ushered in an era of national pride and patriotism. What exactly is Donald Trump calling us to do?
You know, I've explained it to all of you many times in the past, the fact that for the most part, I'm able to prevent the constant negativity of politics from ruining my days. Luckily, that's the case. Otherwise, I don't know how I would do this job. But usually I am able to keep myself from feeling every bit of emotion that should be felt about these stories because, like I said, I sort of have to. But lately, that just has not been the case. Whether it be the story of Kate Cox or this, I'm really viscerally feeling the tragedy of our current American political situation. Let me sort of walk through what I mean by that. Then I promise I'll get back to a more hopeful message. I won't leave you bummed, or I'll try not to. But lately, I've been super disturbed. Again, as I always am, but feeling it in a deeper sense by the fact that so many people in this country support a guy who is proudly and openly campaigning as a wannabe dictator and who is choosing to dehumanize people using the very rhetoric of the worst leaders of the past. And then you have this depraved right-wing media ecosystem that tries to convince you that's not really what Trump represents, or it's actually good, or the left is overreacting. And so we're sitting in this moment where so many Americans genuinely want Trump more than they want democracy. They're hearing him lying about our elections, hearing him promising to lock up his critics, hearing him saying he wants to be a dictator, hearing him classifying certain humans as less than that, and saying, sign me up. That's what I want. That's who I want to represent me and the country. I want a civilly liable rapist, they're saying, who's on tape bragging about sexually assaulting women to be who my kids look up to. I'm going to put a MAGA hat on my son so that he knows that's the type of man you should grow up to be. We currently have a party that spent the last who knows how many decades saying they're the party of the Constitution. They stand, not like those Democrats, they stand for the rule of law. And now they're completely willing to ignore both to stand by Trump. Our entire justice system is no longer valid in their eyes because accountability is coming Trump's way. And what really gets to me is knowing that just about nothing can get through to the people I'm referring to. We're trying to tell them the sky is blue, but instead of looking up at it and realizing we're telling them the truth, they keep their eyes locked on their TV screen so that Sean Hannity or whoever can tell them that it's yellow. So honestly, all of that is bringing me down today and the last few, knowing that Jake Tapper, all of mainstream media, people like me can point out the danger of the rhetoric, the danger of these actions and potential actions, and still in 2024, Donald Trump will have a solid chance of becoming president again. Really disturbing. And then the other super sad part of our current political situation is it forces us to spend so much less time discussing so many other important things. Because we're having to convince people they should see others as human and not think that any person could poison the blood of America, because we are having to beg people not to end our democracy, we aren't spending time talking about food insecurity, poverty, or broken healthcare system, workers' rights, etc. And that's also doing real damage. And before I get to the less sorrowful part of this segment, where I'll give you my call to action, here is Kamala Harris responding to Trump's recent rhetoric.
So, I was raised, as you know, a child of parents who were active in the civil rights movement. And I was raised knowing that there will be some people who will use their voice in a way that is meant to dehumanize, meant to suggest that the vast majority of us don't have anything in common, when in fact the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us. And I would interpret it, I think, then as I do now, which it is language that is meant to divide us. It is language that I think people have rightly found similar to the language of Hitler. And I think it's just critically important that we remind each other, including our children, that the true measure of the strength of a leader is based not on who they beat down, but who they lift up. And sadly, I think that there is something perverse that has happened in our country over the last many years, which is to suggest that strength looks like a bully, when in fact the real character of a leader is someone who has empathy, who has some level of concern and care for the suffering of other people, and then does something to alleviate that suffering.
Absolutely. So I try never to just complain and simmer in distraught feelings about American politics, and instead focus on what we can do in response. So first, in a general sense, if you share these same feelings, here's what you cannot do: detach, give up, disconnect. And it's natural to want to do those things, but the more reasonable people who do that, the more unreasonable people have power. And so my message for, and I'm inclined to say the left, but it's not just about the left, any pro-democracy, pro-normal, non-MAGA people out there, my request to you is, number one, of course, vote, obviously. And then also have respectful, intelligent conversations with others about why they should do the same, why this election is so important. Then wherever you can, get involved, whether it be canvassing, making phone calls, donating, whatever makes sense within the context of your life, do it. And as we get closer to the election, I'll be organizing options relating to that for all of you to get involved in. We have to channel the feelings for a good outcome rather than just simmering in them. Otherwise, what was the point? And that, I think, is the hopeful aspect of this, because we can, and I think we will win. Now, one other thing, for the love of God, can we stop shooting ourselves in the foot? I'm seeing so many people out there spending more time, it seems, trying to figure out how to prevent Biden from being the nominee than explaining to people why he would be a gazillion times better than Trump. If the pro-democracy movement spends the next year infighting over whether or not Biden is the right person or the best candidate, if he's too old, whatever, we're going to lose. It's looking like Biden's going to be the nominee. So can we start putting our energy towards a productive cause? He's gotten a ton of things done. He's actually focused on trying to solve the problems facing Americans, and hey, respects democracy. Look at that. The most basic checkbox is checked. So of course he has his flaws. Absolutely. But we have less than a year until the most important election of all of our lifetime. So I think we should use that time wisely. Before we go, don't forget to become a member at lukebeasley.com/membership to get the daily bonus show Monday through Friday. Plus, follow me on Threads at Luke Beasley Official, Instagram at Luke Beasley Official, X at Luke P. Beasley, and sign up for the Beasley Brief, a daily morning newsletter that summarizes the previous day's events by going to lukebeasleyshow.com/brief, and I'll talk to you all next time.